Well, the official census data has been collected by the federal government, so the question becomes what happens now. As you know, the United States Constitution as well as the Virginia Constitution requires that you go about the process of redistricting every 10 years based on census data. The Code of Virginia specifically requires that the census data that's derived from the federal government must go through the Division of Legislative Services for analysis and adjustment, and then be delivered to the local governments to be used in your local process of redistricting. The federal law requires that the Census Bureau provide that information by April 1st. That's not going to happen. And that's why this is a rather odd situation. As a matter of fact, I wrote this before I got the information this morning that the Census Bureau has now indicated that they will not be delivering their census data to the states until the beginning of September. Now, what does that mean for purposes of redistricting? It means that you're never going to be able to meet the deadlines in the Code of Virginia as to being able to change or redistrict your districts. Mainly because you cannot make any changes to your election districts 60 days before an election. So if you're getting the information in September, there's no way you're doing it by November. Which leads to a very interesting scenario, which I think the General Assembly is going to have to address. They're going to have to make some level of exceptions to relevant code sections that require you to provide for redistricting every 10 years. What that's going to look like, I can't speak to. I have no idea. And quite frankly, I don't think anybody really has any idea. But the fact of the matter is that you still will need to redistrict at some point when you get that data. Now, redistricting doesn't necessarily mean that you must redistrict it because population shifts do and sometimes do not occur, so you may not have to change your lines. But what the firm has been telling all of our local government clients is to go ahead and start getting prepared. Think about coming up with what we've labeled just as a general term, a redistricting committee. It can be made up of however many people you think is appropriate and what is kind of fair for everybody. A lot of localities are doing a mixture of elected members, staff from the locality, and citizens to try and give everybody an opportunity to have a say in how that redistricting is done. But again, I throw that out there as a suggestion. You all can pick and choose however you want to do it. It's completely up to you. But I just wanted to let you know that at least for purposes of trying to get prepared, because I don't know what any deadlines are going to be. Once the General Assembly takes some action, whatever that might or might not be, they're going to probably set some level of a deadline. And I don't know how quickly you're going to have to turn around and start doing the work. So I'm just suggesting that you be prepared and go ahead and appoint and designate a redistricting committee of however many members and whomever you want, just so that you are prepared going forward. Having said that, there's really nothing that you need to do specifically tonight. I'm just bringing this up for your consideration to think about. You may want to, over the next month, kind of think about who potential players in that committee would be, and then go forth and at least get them appointed. And then if need be, I can also do a little bit of training with them, kind of give them some of the legal layout of what would be required in the analysis process of redistricting. But at least that way, whenever you get the information from the state, you're ready to go. You don't have to kind of flounder around and come up with how you're going to go about doing it. So that's it for me. Thank you.
Did they change some code to have instead of having done by senators, delegates, appointing a commission to do redistricting?
That's relative to the state level.
Yes.
Yes, they created a quote-unquote bipartisan committee, which let's be honest, it's never going to be bipartisan. But the reality is that group is solely focused on the state districts, but it has no effect on local governments and how you go about doing your internal local redistricting.
And that got me thinking, would a 5-member board be?
I think that would be fine. I mean,
I'm thinking one for somebody from each district, but not one of us. But we would bring somebody from our district.
yeah, that's completely fine.
That
I
kind of
mean,
keeps us out of it.
yeah, I mean, one person from each district. You may want to think about including maybe Mr. Tyree, because he's going to kind of be the one, I guess, that's going to, I'm not exactly sure who, and maybe Ms. Anitas can enlighten us on who's going to have responsibility for looking at all this data and trying to do the appropriate analysis through GIS and all that fun stuff.
But even if we appoint a committee now, they still can't do anything.
No, we don't need to do that. Yeah, I was just.
No, I mean, even if they met, you might meet and discuss roles and responsibilities or do the training, but other than that, you can't take action.
Can't do anything.
Can't do anything.
Okay.
But we could be ready to go in September.
Right. But at least sometime, next month or two, try and create the committee, and then maybe over the summer we can do a little training session, and maybe answer any questions they may have about what are the legal requirements and all that. So, just so you're kind of prepared going forward. And I think at your next meeting, just as an aside, I'm going to have another discussion with you about marijuana.
Yes.
Because
You're a Main Street Common Market.
because it looks like the governor is actually going to sign off on the marijuana legislation. Just some minor technical amendments are being done, but
But doesn't it have to go back before the special, don't they have to have a special session?
yeah, there's a couple technical amendments that he has suggested, but I think at the end of the day, the legislation is going to go through. But then it puts the onus on, or it provides for the localities the opportunity to hold a referendum to see if their constituents are interested in having dispensaries and or manufacturing facilities in their localities. So,
And what if you don't have the referendum, you just automatically, or do you have to have a referendum?
no, the referendum is solely to essentially become a non-marijuana locality. It's an opt-out.
Okay,
It's an opt-out.
So you're automatically in if it passes.
So, we'll have a discussion.
Well, that's interesting.